There were 28 people on a ship in the Antarctic Ocean, but their ship had become trapped amidst millions of tons of ice. They had already spent 7 months standing still in the same place. During that time, one night they heard a loud noise from beneath the ship, and simultaneously the ship tilted to one side. It felt as if someone had tried to push the ship forcefully from below. What happened next was beyond even their wildest imagination. Welcome back to the videos of Basic Money Explained, dear viewers. The Antarctic Ocean, where waves are as tall as buildings, winds roar at 100 kilometers an hour, and the water temperature is so low that human blood begins to freeze. Traveling in this ocean is like embracing death. Even if you survive the cold and waves, icebergs as large as mountains can easily crush a ship. But 111 years ago, when technology was not so advanced, nor were ships, a ship carrying a group of 28 people got stuck in this terrifying ocean. Under the open sky, they spent not just a few weeks or months, but astonishingly a full 2 years. For miles around, there was only ice, stormy winds, a shortage of food and water, and no chance of calling for help. This is a survival story that the world has named the greatest survival story of all time. The hero of this story is Sir Ernest Shackleton, an explorer whose mission was to test the endurance of the human body. For this reason, he named his ship Endurance. He had undertaken many perilous missions in his life. In 1901, he was part of a mission to reach Antarctica, but had to turn back 750 kilometers away. In 1907, he attempted the mission again, but had to retreat just 150 kilometers short. And this time, in 1914, his plan was not only to reach Antarctica, but to cross the continent on foot. The reason was simply that Sir Ernest Shackleton wanted to do what no one had ever done before. This mission was named the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, and because its nature was extremely dangerous, no one was willing to join. Sir Ernest's first challenge was to find a crew for his expedition, so he wrote an advertisement and published it in the Times newspaper. Remember, this was no ordinary tour operator's advertisement. Its opening words were, "Men wanted for hazardous journey." It clearly stated that the pay would be minimal, they would face deadly cold, live in darkness for months, confront constant dangers, and no guarantee of a safe return. Sir Ernest wanted to attract those who were not afraid of dangers. Soon, he hired a group of 27 people. Sir Ernest had planned this mission for 4 years, but as the time approached, his expedition's dream began to fade because World War I had broken out. Everyone thought the expedition would be canceled. However, Britain, which had itself declared war, permitted the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition to proceed. This mission required an exceptionally strong ship that could cut through the ice-covered Antarctic Ocean. But this was no ordinary ship that could be easily built. Fortunately, such a ship already existed for Arctic travel. A Norwegian company had built this ship for another explorer who wanted to use it to take elite-class clients on polar bear hunting trips, but his business model failed. Sir Ernest bought the ship and named it Endurance. Endurance was specially built with thick American oak wood, designed to withstand the immense pressure of ice. It was a hybrid ship with both sails and an engine. Finally, the day arrived that Sir Ernest had been waiting for, years. On August 8, 1914, Endurance began its journey from Plymouth, England. For the next 4 months, it traveled across the Atlantic Ocean. First, it went to Argentina, then to South Georgia Island, and after completing final preparations there, on December 5, 1914, it set its course toward the Weddell Sea in the Antarctic Ocean. Endurance carried 28 people and 50 large breed dogs, which were to be used for pulling supplies across the Antarctic ice. The journey continued for 46 days, and they were just one day away from reaching the coast of Antarctica. But on January 18, 1915, the first obstacle blocked their path. What happened was that the layers of ice in the Weddell Sea grew thicker and thicker, and at one point they became 18 feet thick. Endurance no longer had the strength to cut through and move forward. The ice was also too weak in some places to start a journey on foot. Endurance was stuck in the ice about 130 kilometers from its destination, Vassal Bay. Initially, it seemed like a temporary issue, but it turned out to be the biggest challenge for the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. After days of trying, they decided to manually push the 300-ton ship forward. After 2 days of cutting ice and making way, the crew was completely exhausted. But the task was even more difficult than they had imagined. After days of hard work, they managed to move the ship only 300 meters before it got stuck again. After a month of attempts to free the ship, on February 14, 1915, Sir Ernest gave up. He decided to let the ship drift with the natural movement of the ice, hoping that the ice would break as winter ended. During this time, Endurance served as a winter station. The crew carried out their routine tasks. The only difference was that the ship was stationary. The crew's morale was high, and Sir Ernest maintained strict discipline on the ship. They spent their days discussing, playing soccer, cutting each other's hair, and cooking, all while waiting for the ice to break and give them a way forward or back. As days passed, the crew grew closer to each other and even developed an emotional attachment to the animals. Everyone hoped they would eventually reach civilization, but perhaps fate had other plans. In April 1915, the ice began to break, but due to increasing pressure, the layers started piling up on top of each other. This was an extremely unexpected event. The pressure from millions of tons of compacting ice began to bear down on Endurance. At this point, it was crucial to free the ship from the ice pressure, so everyone worked together to remove the ice. After weeks of effort, the danger passed, but the threat remained. On the night of July 14, 1915, a loud noise came from beneath the ship, and Endurance tilted to one side. No one knew what had happened. Was it a collision with a whale or something else? The night passed, but what they saw in the morning was unbelievable. The compacting layers of ice had not only tilted the ship, but completely destroyed its rudder, which was used to steer the ship. The crew of Endurance had now been stuck for 7 months and were at least 2,000 kilometers from any human population. No contact, no hope of calling for help. Their only hope was Sir Ernest Shackleton. By October 18, 1915, the dreams of the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition lay shattered. The mission's crew had been stuck in one place for 9 months. Then, one night, a sudden pressure wave hit, tilting Endurance 30 degrees to one side in the blink of an eye. The risk of the ship leaking became imminent. Water began seeping in through cracks in some places. The entire crew worked through the night to prevent water from flooding the ship, but their shelter was not meant to last. On October 27, 1915, Sir Ernest Shackleton ordered the ship to be evacuated, as that was the only way to save lives. Essential supplies, animals, food, lifeboats, and bedding were brought out, and the entire crew was forced to camp on the ice sheet under the open sky. The ship that had been their refuge for months was now breaking apart under the pressure of the ice and slowly sinking into the water. Everyone wondered how long they could survive on floating ice sheets. Sir Ernest Shackleton decided that staying here was not safe. He knew of an island called Paulet Island, 530 kilometers away, where there used to be shelter and supplies. But reaching there with only 3 lifeboats was not enough, since ice that could break such a large ship would make short work of lifeboats. So they decided to walk to the island. They began their journey toward Paulet Island, which turned out to be the most dangerous part of their adventure. For the next 6 months, the crew faced life-threatening dangers. The ice sheets they camped on would either develop holes or drift with the water currents. Fortunately, these ice sheets were slowly drifting to Paulet Island, so Sir Ernest decided to let the ice sheet carry them to Paulet Island. By now, their food and supplies were running low. They hunted whatever they could find on the floating ice sheet, such as penguins and seals. By February 1916, they had been on their journey for 13 months.
Conditions had deteriorated to the point where they were surviving on just 1 biscuit per meal. Over the next month, while waiting for Paulet Island, things got so bad that they had to kill their dogs. This provided them with supplies for a few more days. They hoped to find supplies on Paulet Island, but the drifting ice sheet changed direction and headed toward Elephant Island instead of Paulet Island. For the next several days, the sea was stormy. The temperature dropped to -20 degrees Celsius, and some crew members began to suffer from frostbite. Their mouths and tongues were so swollen that swallowing became difficult. By April 1916, they finally managed to reach Elephant Island with the help of the broken ice sheet. For the first time in 16 months, they were standing on solid ground. They breathed a sigh of relief on Elephant Island, but the island was completely barren, and staying there for long was not possible, especially with food supplies running out. Their only hope was South Georgia Island, 1,300 kilometers away. Sir Ernest Shackleton decided to undertake the suicidal mission of traveling to South Georgia Island in a lifeboat. He selected a few crew members and set off from Elephant Island on April 24, 1916. This route is considered one of the most dangerous sea routes in the world. They faced waves as high as 90 feet, and the freezing cold was so severe that every part of their bodies began to freeze. To add to their difficulties, they had to navigate without GPS or a compass, relying only on the stars and the sun. Despite giving it their all every day, they could not cover more than 80 kilometers. After 16 days, on May 10, 1916, Sir Ernest Shackleton and 5 crew members finally managed to reach South Georgia Island. But there was a problem. They had landed on the wrong side of the island. Ahead of them were 4,000-foot-high mountains. After 36 hours of continuous climbing, they finally reached the other side, where a whaling station was located. Shackleton's condition was so poor that people at the whaling station did not recognize him. No one could believe that Sir Ernest, who had set out almost a year and a half ago, had arrived in such a state. After staying in South Georgia for 3 days, Sir Ernest set out again toward Elephant Island, where he had left 22 people in terrible condition. He made several unsuccessful attempts to reach Elephant Island. Finally, on August 30th, 1916, Sir Ernest saw smoke rising from Elephant Island in the distance, which had been lit as a signal. Sir Ernest did not know how many of his crew had survived, but as he approached, to his amazement, he found all the crew members on Elephant Island alive and well. They had first set out from England on August 8, 1914. After 2 years and 22 days, he had brought his entire team safely back home. Although he never completed his original mission, having failed in 2 earlier attempts to reach the South Pole and getting stuck 120 kilometers short in the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, this survival story earned him a status that perhaps even completing the mission could not have given him. 107 years after this event, in 2022, Endurance was finally found in the Antarctic Ocean. Endurance remains preserved in almost perfect condition on the ocean floor 3,000 meters below the surface. Even the name written on it can still be read clearly. We hope you will like and share this video from Basic Money Explained. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.